morning, everyone. Happy Monday. I'm Carol Williams with Williams Immigration, a boutique immigration firm here in the U.S., assisting with immigration matters in all 50 states as well as internationally. So, Monday mornings I go live and we talk about all things U.S. immigration. So, this Monday morning, I've got some great things I want to talk to you about. So, I like to dive right in. And the first thing is 4 things that all employers should avoid and not do when it comes to hiring immigrants. Okay, so the first one is do not knowingly hire someone that is not authorized to work in the United States. So if you know that individual does not have their paperwork, you should not be hiring them to work in the United States. The second thing is if you have hired someone that maybe you weren't 100% sure wasn't authorized to work when you first hired them, or you 100% thought they were authorized to work, and then they come to you and they say, hey, I'm not authorized to work, what you then cannot do is convert that person to a contractor. So you cannot convert them then to a 1099 contractor when you know that they are not authorized to work in the United States. I get that question often, and it is hard for the employer to hear, but the rules say that if you know that individual is not authorized to work in the United States, you can't get around the rule by simply making them a 1099 contractor. The third thing that we should not be doing as employers is we should not be discriminating against people in your hiring phase, in your firing phase, or in your retention phase, and taking into consideration because of their national origin or citizenship status. So you want to make sure that you are treating everyone the same, whether or not they are from the US or not from the US, and no matter what their work authorization is, and whether or not you think they're a US citizen or not, depending on what phase you're in, whether it's hiring, firing, or retention. And the other thing that will help all of my employers out there is we should not, as employers, be requesting more documents or less documents or different documents to show that someone has work authorization based upon what you think their US citizenship status is. So you cannot say, well, I think Anne is not a US citizen, so just to be on the safe side, I'm going to ask her to either give me very specific documents, or I'm just going to ask her for more documents than I would someone that I think is a US citizen. By the same token, you can't ask a United States citizen for fewer documents. So let's say you've known Joan her entire life. She now is coming to work with you. You're like, oh, I know Joan. She's one of my besties. She's a US citizen, of course. And so then you ask Joan for less documents. All of that negatively impacts individuals, and you're not treating people the same. So while some of these seem fairly basic, people, make mistakes and do these things every day in their business, some knowingly, some unknowingly. But I will tell you, the Department of Justice is more than happy to come to your work site and have a conversation with you about your hiring, firing, and retention practices, where foreign nationals are concerned if they think that you are doing something that you shouldn't. And so it does not matter if you're a small company. It doesn't matter if you're a large company. It doesn't matter if you're somewhere in between small and large. The Department of Justice will absolutely come have a conversation with you. I have people say to me all the time, oh, but Carol, I'm such a small business. I'm not on anyone's radar. You will absolutely be on someone's radar if someone makes a complaint against you. So keep that in mind. The Department of Justice is pretty much industry agnostic, so they don't care what you do. They don't care if you produce a product. They don't care if you are selling a service. They want to make sure that you are not treating people differently, based on their immigration status or their citizenship status. So truly, the Department of Justice has had conversations with companies that are household names, as well as mom and pop shops that you may have never heard of. So just keep that in mind. So those are four things that I wanted to bring to your attention this morning that you do not want to be doing. So if you have any questions about those, you're welcome to reach out to the office, and we are happy to talk to you about that. Which then goes very nicely into the next topic that I wanted to talk to you about this morning are the new I-9 forms. So the I-9, as we know, is an employment verification form. It looks at the person's ability to work in the United States, so whether or not they have work authorization and their identity. So when we talk about asking for more documents or less documents, the I-9 form tells you what documents you should be asking for, right? Or gives you a list of documents where you can hand that entire list to potential employees and say, here, here's the world of documents that I can accept as an employer. So topic number 2 for this morning that I want you to know about is November 1, so almost 2 weeks ago, the new I-9 form was now mandatory that we use it. So as of November 1, everybody should be using the new I-9 form. The edition date on that new I-9 form is August 1st, 2023. If you are using a previous edition, you need to stop using it, essentially, yesterday, the day before yesterday, and start using the edition date 8/1/23. And so you definitely want to make sure that you are using the proper I-9 form. There's a little bit of a lead-in where you could use the new form and the old form, but now, as of November 1, everybody should have transitioned to that new I-9 form. Okay. The next thing I want to talk to y'all about this morning is stateside visa renewal. So the old program used to be called visa revalidation. We're now looking at stateside visa renewal as a new name. That's fine. I don't care if they change the name. I just want them to bring it back, quite frankly. And what it is it is a program where instead of having to leave the US and travel home, for some folks, that is a long flight and a long time at home, time where they are not productive at work, leaving, going home, applying for a new visa, and then coming back into the United States. So the visa revalidation program would allow for certain individuals to remain in the United States, send their passport, their appropriate supporting documents to the Department of State here in the US, and then have the Department of State do the visa paperwork, put the visa stamp in the passport, and then mail it back to the individual, all while they remain in the United States. So they remain work authorized, they remain in the States, they're not losing productive work time, they're not using their vacation time. So it's a much more convenient process for the employers as well as the employees. So we think we will get a pilot of this new stateside visa renewal program in early 2024, so early next year. So as we know, the holidays are here. So I'm just claiming that we're pretty much at the end of the year, almost at the beginning of the new year. So I'm hoping we can see this pilot program take off early the next year. We don't have any concrete details as of yet. It is winding its way through the rulemaking process. We believe it may only impact H-1Bs to begin with, but I will certainly keep you apprised when I hear of anything else. But I wanted to remind y'all that that is something that we are waiting on, and it is winding its way through the rulemaking process. Next thing I want to talk to y'all about is stampless entry. And this is really a reminder. So it used to be when you came into the US, you would get a white card that was called an I-94 card. Well, they have phased those cards out, I don't know, a while ago, quite honestly, a while ago. So your I-94 card information is still in the system and it's still available to you. You just have to go online and get it offline. And so you don't need a special password. If you Google I-94 card, the website will come up. and you can put in your information, and you can then print your N94 card. I recommend that everyone do this every single time they come into the United States because you want to check to make sure that you are admitted in the correct status. So, what you pull down from this online system is what is actually in the government system. So, that is what USCIS is going to use when they're looking at your application. That is what the consulate is going to use if they want to make sure that you left the US on time. Um, that is what, that is what I use to make sure that you are here in the proper work authorized status. The folks at the airport, they're human, right? Humans make mistakes, and that's understandable. But the quicker you look at your I-94 card, and catch a mistake if there is one, the better. So you don't want to be 6 months down the road, and then finally pull your I-94 card and realize, oops, you were admitted as a visitor, but yet now you've been working for 6 months. So you want to make sure that you do that. The other reason you want to make sure that you do that is you want to be tracking your travel, especially if you are a green card holder and you desire at one point in the future to apply for US citizenship. There is, when you go to the I-94 card website, there is a section where you can also pull down all of your travel. That travel section, over the years, I have found to be a little bit less reliable. Not saying that it's not reliable, but just a teeny bit less reliable. I've seen more errors there, certainly than I've seen in the I-94 card section. So when you're looking at citizenship, you want to make sure that you have a completed list of all of your international travel, because that is going to be requested for your citizenship application. So I like to get people, I like to get their heads wrapped around keeping that list of international travel. And then we can always use the online system to, as further evidence that you traveled in and out. But sometimes I just think the officers are moving so quickly at some of these busier airports that they may not just click a button correctly, or it may not, load up into the system. It may be a computer glitch. So I just want to make sure that we aren't having any problems down the road. But for sure, you should always be checking and pulling your N94 card as soon as you enter the United States. Okay. And the last thing I want to talk to you all about this morning is another national interest waiver tip. So we know that the national interest waiver is a green card category. It is a second preference category. So typically you're going to need a position that requires a minimum of a master's degree. And you're going to need to show that your proposed endeavor has both substantial merit and national importance. So what are you going to be doing? Why do we find that important? You're also going to need to show that you, as the individual who's being sponsored, you are well positioned to advance that endeavor. So do you have the skill set needed to carry on once you get your green card? And 3, on balance, would it be beneficial to the United States to waive the usual second preference or EB2 green card requirements, meaning that you have a job offer and that employer goes through the labor certification process, which includes advertising for and looking for U.S. citizen workers who are qualified. So the question that I get often, in my tip for you today, is what's the best evidence, right? How do I ensure that I get my national interest waiver application approved? So those of you who know me, here's what I say. I use very legal terms when I speak with folks, right? So what I say is that there's no magical combination. There's absolutely no magical combination. Those are my very legal words today. Lots of legalese, y'all. But truly, there's no magical combination. It is what you bring to the table. So types of evidence that we see all the time with these applications, but no magical combination. We see publications. We see where folks have been cited, and they have their own citations. We see where their work has been cited by others in their field. We see really amazing and glowing support letters from folks that are also very well accomplished in that same field. We see clients that have public and private grants. to carry on the work that they are doing. Folks that have received awards for, for their previous work in the field. Some folks have patents on the work that they are doing. We also see folks that have membership in organizations, and it's not an organization where you just pay your money and you become a member. It's organizations that really have pretty strict criteria in order for you to even join the organization. So the organization itself wants you to have a certain level of um, industry knowledge and maybe potentially years in the industry, have already done some really great things within that industry in order to gain admission. So it's not, again, not one of these things where you just pay and all of a sudden you're a member. So those are several types of evidence that we see, but there truly is no magical combination. So I don't say to people, well, if you have 4 publications, 3 support letters, and 6 awards, then I think you're automatically going to get approved. Not all of these pieces of evidence are applicable to a certain industry or what you are doing. So it is really my firm, and we take a very holistic approach to national interest waiver. We look at everything that you have, and then we do an analysis of what we think will happen. Do we think we can get this approved? Do we think the Immigration Service will agree with us? Um, and so again, there's just the best evidence is the evidence that you have. There's no magical combination of evidence, but I always tell people the more evidence, the more documents you can provide, the better. So that is my tip for you for national interest waiver today. So I'm Carol Williams with Williams Immigration. This has been another Monday morning edition of Beyond the Soundbite. If you have any questions about anything that we've talked about today, coming in with CBP and not getting an I-94 card, or visa revalidation, when can we expect that? What do we think that will look like? Your new I-94 card, and things that you should not be doing in your business as an employer when it comes to your employees. Feel free to reach out to the office. We're happy to help you. Our number is on screen. You can also send us a message via the platform, and we will definitely get back to you. Have a wonderful Monday morning and a great rest of your